Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I am your friendly neighborhood PM here to give you your top 3 market points of the week, as always. Now, we are starting to get to that time of the year where it's just earnings. But this past week, we had an interesting mix of earnings plus some economic data. So without further ado, and so I don't hang you up from your 3-day weekend, let's dive right in and kicking us off at number 3. It was CPI and inflation data coming in a little bit softer than expected for the month of December. So like I just mentioned, CPI core data came in a little bit lower than a lot of survey estimates expected, down to 3.2%. Always a great sign. Now, a lot of that was being driven by the fact that shelter costs and hotel stays did come down in the month of December. A little bit surprising given the holiday weekend and travel, but always a welcome sign. Now, we've talked about this in the past, that shelter makes up about 70% of the core gauge. So anytime we can get some moderation in housing costs, that is always going to help the overall headline figure. Now, what this does is pretty much help reignite the hope of rate cuts going into 2025. After that hot jobs report last week, a lot of the bets for the rate cuts by the Fed did kind of get washed away, but this does kind of hopefully reignite that we might get one or two later on in the year. Now, pivoting over to earnings, it's number 2, and that's JP Morgan having a blowout quarter in the fourth quarter. They pretty much beat on every single metric, but one thing that we want to point out is that their fixed income trading desk had a sales increase of 49% year over year, just smashed it right out of the park. Now, this is largely due to increased volatility around the election during that time frame. Now, on top of that, they did see a pickup in M&A activity, which has kind of been a slump in the past 2 years or so. And they also gave stronger forward guidance into 2025, issuing that they were going to see net interest income higher than a lot of economists estimated. So that's always a key gauge for banks. And if they're issuing stronger forecast numbers, then the stock's going to rally. And we saw that the other day. And then finally, at point number 1, going a little bit on the international side, but it parlays everywhere, it's Taiwan Semi having another standout quarter similar to JP Morgan. But Taiwan Semi is your main foundry here on the globe where it comes to developing and producing those leading edge chips. We've probably talked about this a few times in the past, but they are the number 1 foundry in the world. They have clients such as Apple, NVIDIA, AMD, all coming to them to help build those AI semiconductor chips. Now, Taiwan Semi continues to see blowout growth and profit numbers, frankly, quarter after quarter, year after year, and they continue to ramp up. Now, one of the key metrics that they announced in their earnings call was that they saw CapEx increasing in 2025 between $38 to $42 billion, where a lot of analysts only assumed that they were going to be issuing CapEx of around $30 billion. So what that really tells us is that the demand for AI hardware for these semiconductors, for these chips from these leading companies is not tapering off anytime soon. And Taiwan Semi is going to have their hands full with the production orders that they're going to be seeing. So that does it for your top 3 points this past week. What are we looking to for next week? Well, you probably got a hint at it earlier in the video, but it's going to be earnings. We are fully into earnings season now. And some of the key names that we're going to be looking at next week is going to be the Netflix and a variety of airlines. We're going to have United, American, all reporting next week, but we're really starting to get into the thick of it. So expect these next couple of videos to really update you on earnings going into the new year. Now, that pretty much does it for this week's video. As always, if you have additional questions, please reach out to your financial advisor or dig into the written weekend review. But as always, please go and enjoy your weekend. It's a nice 3-day weekend this week. Watch some football, and we will see you the same time next week. Thanks again. Bye.